Hey, welcome back guys. This is Jason, KM4ACK. Today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming RaDAR challenge and what gear I'm going to be taking with me. Stick around and we'll get right to it. Real quick before we get going today, I've got to give a shout out to these guys. They're my latest patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel, I'll leave a link to Patreon down in the description below. Okay, so before we dive into the bag and what I'm going to carry, let me remind you guys that the RaDAR challenge is coming up on Saturday, November the 6th, and that's from 00 UTC to 2359 UTC. So check your local time zones to see how that translates for where you live. Again, just like when we did the RaDAR challenge before, pretty much every mode is legal. CW, single sideband, FM, or any legal digital modes with amateur radio. The exchange is fairly simple. We're just looking for the call sign, the name, the receive report, and the grid locator. Now, one thing about the grid locator, they do ask that be, I believe it's 8 digits long instead of a 6-character grid square, or 8 characters rather, I should have said. So that is part of the exchange as well. And then, depending on how you're moving your station, whether you're in a car, on a bike, walking, the distance that you need to travel between activations varies. So in a car, you need to move a minimum of 6 kilometers. On a bicycle, that's only 2 kilometers. And if you're on foot or paddling, maybe in a kayak or a canoe, that only needs to be 1 kilometer. And they even have a category in there for anyone that might be wheelchair bound. You only need to move 500 meters between deployments. And we need to make 5 QSOs before we move to that next location. So that's kind of a brief rundown of the rules. I will leave a link right here across the screen to the full set of rules, and then I'll also leave that down in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump into the bag. I've got some new things in here that I've looked at some of these on the channel before, but not all of them. First up is I'm using a different backpack. That last QRP backpack that I put together, I just wasn't happy with the way it carried, and to me it was just overly uncomfortable when you got anything more than about 8 or 9 pounds in it. Now, I don't have any food or water in this bag right now. Probably we'll just throw that in the Jeep and not actually put it in the backpack. But the backpack is going to be a new addition for this particular outing. Now, let's start on the outside over in this pocket. I will be carrying the Yaesu FT5DR. I always like to have an HT with me. Now, to go with that, I'll go ahead and open up this main compartment here. I will have the 2-meter everyday carry bag in here that normally rides around with me just in the Jeep, but I did go ahead and throw it in this backpack. We're not going to tear into this bag, but I have done a video on what I keep in here in the past. I'll leave a link to that right down in the description below, so if you want to see exactly what all goes into this pack, be sure to click on that link and check that out. Next up, we've just got a few cables for the Raspberry Pi and the radio. So let's see, a power cable for the Pi, a power cable for the radio, and the necessary USB cable that we'll be using. Now, this is something that's going to be new for this particular deployment. I have been playing with this a little bit, and I do need to give you guys a follow-up because there's some things I really like about the RaSPad, and there's some things I really dislike about the RaSPad. I am going to give this thing one more go in the field, but I'm not sure it's going to fit my particular needs. Nothing wrong with the device. I just don't know that it fits the way I operate. So I will be taking it out for this. I'm not planning on doing a lot of digital contacts for this particular event, but I do want to have the ability to do it. One of the things I really dislike about this, and this is not a knock on the RaSPad itself, there's only one on-screen keyboard that you can really get your hands on for the Raspberry Pi. And for anything more than a couple of quick sentences, it's just way too finicky, way too cumbersome to try to use. So I am going to throw in a Bluetooth keyboard that I can use with this setup. That way, if I want to send out some longer WinLink emails, or if I want to have some full-blown QSOs on JS8 call, that's going to make it quite a bit more comfortable to do so. I will be carrying my PowerFilm 30 watt. Yeah, this is a 30 watt solar panel with me. That'll keep everything charged up. And I'm going to be using the ICOM 705 radio. Oops, sorry about the banging there. I have really been digging this radio. It's been on several outings with me recently. I have been very pleased with it. I've made quite a few contacts on it with voice. I've made a truckload of JS8 contacts on it. And WinLink, I'm checking every single day on this particular trip. And so far I've had 0 issues with the 705. So that'll be the radio of choice for this particular RaDAR challenge. Of course, I'm going to be taking the in-fed half-wave that I love so much. To go along with this, I'm going to be using the TN07 mast, and I'll be using the holder on the front of my Jeep. That is just such a quick and easy solution to deploying the antenna. You got 32 feet of mast, I can't remember exactly. So I usually deploy this in an inverted L configuration. Occasionally I'll go to a inverted V, but most often it's an inverted L with the in-fed half-wave antenna. And then I'm going to, I can run the 705 with just the internal battery and I get 5 watts out. I do prefer to run it with an external battery, so I'm going with a Bio-Enno 3 amp hour battery. This one will give me the full 10 watts out, and for a shorter deployment or a shorter challenge like the RaDAR challenge, I think between this and the solar panel, it's going to be more than enough. Worst case scenario, I end up running this thing dead, and I have to just fall back to the battery that's built into or attaches to the back of the 705. So if we have to go that route, then we have to go that route. And of course, I'm going to be carrying the Buddy Pole Power Mini. That just gives me a very convenient way to split everything out, the Raspberry Pi and the radio, and run both of them from the one 3 amp hour battery. Now, should I deplete this and I'm just left with a battery for the 705, that little built-in HT battery, then I'm going to have another solution for running the Raspberry Pi, and that's where I will reach over to my 2 meter everyday carry bag and go ahead and grab the battery bank that's always in there ready to go. All right, guys, well, there's a look at the gear I'm going to take. Do you plan on participating in the RaDAR challenge? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what gear you'll be using. We'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, 7-3. Well, that was kind of rude to drive through my shot like that.